Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today for our first workshop of the week. We're very excited to get started, but before we do, I just wanted to share a few housekeeping notes. So one, I want to remind everyone that the panels, workshops, and keynotes are all being translated simultaneously into Spanish. And so if you click on the interpretation button below, you will be able to select the Spanish station, the Spanish channel, and then you'll be able to hear the interpretations live. I also want to mention that we are streaming everything to YouTube, both in English and in Spanish. And so if you have any technical issues in Zoom and you just want to follow the live stream, you're more than welcome to do that. And you will find the links to the YouTube channels in the chat feature in Zoom. And then also just want to mention that you are welcome to share questions during this workshop in the chat feature within Zoom, and our team will be monitoring those and we'll try our best to answer them. Feel free as well to share social media highlights using the hashtag ISOJ 2020. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our workshop, which is titled No Code Data Journalism, How to Go Beyond Infographics and Engage Audiences. And this workshop would not be possible without Microsoft support, so thank you. The workshop will be led by a terrific trio, Vera Chan from Microsoft News Lab, Cathleen Crowley from the Albany Times Union, and Vera Okeyo of the Daily Nation in Kenya. So thank you to all three of you for being here with us today, and we're really excited to learn from you.
Hello, good morning. And I just want to make sure that Vera Okeyo and Cathleen Crowley, who is with me today, is also, you're welcome to unmute and share
Kathleen's
your
here.
video. Hi.
I am here.
Hi. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this says the brunch workshop. We didn't quite parachute food in for you guys. I hope that's all right. I hope you guys have snacks on hand. I have coconut water, so that is going to be my brunch. So again, thank you for joining our No Code Data Journalism workshop. We've got two terrific people with me on the panel today. There will be opportunities. I know there's a lot of you on the call. If we can't get to all the questions today, which, you know, we'll be showing some good things. So we can't get to your questions. There will be means for you to reach out to us. So, you know, I do want to thank you again for joining something that we think is just so incredibly important for the industry. Data journalism is something that all of us aspire to do, but it's just a matter of resources. And we're hoping that today we're going to introduce you some opportunities to see, like, you can do this, whether you're in a broadcast newsroom, you're in a small digital only operation, that this is something that's attainable to you with limited resources. Actually, what I wanted to start off, just so you know what the agenda is today, we'll be doing some introductions. Again, my name is Vera Chan. I'm the Senior Manager for Worldwide Journalist Relations at Microsoft News Labs. I'll talk about myself a little bit more later, but I want to introduce our panel. They'll introduce themselves, actually. Kathleen and Vera will, and then we'll go into some things that we've done with other newsrooms, and then they're going to show you some really good stuff. All right, so Kathleen, even though you look frozen to me at the moment, I might start with you.
I hope you can see me.
Yes, I can see you.
All right, great. My name's Cathleen Crowley. I'm a reporter at the Albany Times Union in upstate New York. I think my story in data journalism is something that maybe a lot of you share, like that I didn't start out as a data journalist. I just kind of stumbled into it, and slowly it grew as part of my career. I've been a beat reporter for 20 years, covering every beat from cops, courts, schools, and health. And I've always dabbled in Excel and liked it, but there was always some people in the newsroom who were the data journalists and the data team. But as downsizing, layoffs, and attrition kind of hit our one day I looked around the newsroom and I was about the only one there who really knew Excel. And that's unfortunate, but I also thought, well, that's an opportunity to kind of dig in and become my newspaper's data person. So I really started studying Excel. I taught myself through YouTube videos. And but I hit a wall because I wanted to merge data sets and compare them and analyze them together. And that I did VLOOKUPs and pivot tables, but I just couldn't get past that, and it didn't really work that well. So I was trying around for other tools, and I came across Power BI. It was actually being piloted in an AP data sharing program. So I stumbled upon that and decided to give it a try. And it has really become my go-to tool because I'm a one-person data team in my newsroom. I help other reporters with their downloading the data sets, cleaning the data sets, and analyzing, and then helping visualize them. And I can do that all right with Power BI. I can download information from the web, or I can upload Excel files or CSV files. I can clean it in Power BI, and then I can start analyzing it and studying it, and then create these beautiful visuals that look great on our website. So a little bit later, I'm going to build, actually build right before your eyes an interactive using a data set. So look forward to that. You're on mute, Vera.
Oh, okay.
You know, this is, I just work for a technology company. That's all. So I want to introduce you to someone whose name I love. And who knew I could meet someone who has my namesake in another continent. So Vera Okeyo.
Oh, hi guys. The difference between Vera and I is I have an H. So you said the Vera with the H. So my personal story is I've never loved data at all, like even in my postgraduate studies. But when I came to the newsroom, I have been reporting on health for a long time. And after sometimes you go to the editor and you tell them, this is a pretty important story. And then they're like, how many people have died? It's not as catchy as anymore because, the news cycle in the newsroom is something has to have that shock factor. So data sort of like has always been able to give me that way of making news fresh and have the news value in it. And this goes on to the fact that the position of health, the bit that I cover, health and science, it's in the newsroom because of prestige, where we have politics and sports, which is here for circulation and advertising. But science and health has never had that kind of an ability. So when I started doing data, that was the only way for me to get this kind of things on page 1 and page 2. And even now I'm still in the newsroom and we're still going to have a data story tomorrow. And that has kind of like helped me to do that. And when I applied for my grant, sorry about my colleague in the background, when I applied for my grant from ICFJ, and I saw it was data, I never knew that I was going to use Power BI. But when I started working with Vern and Verah, they introduced me to that tool, and now I'm hoping that I'm going to upscale it in my newsroom to be able to use Power BI. So my personal story is like data and Power BI has enabled me to explore other skills in the newsroom and build my other skills that are not necessarily journalistic, like reporting alone. So, and Vera is going to share a slide of that later about the work that I did, my first work with Power BI and how that turned out. Thanks, Vera.
Hey guys, sorry that I have to click on quite a few screens right here. So one thing that I do want to talk about is some of the partnerships that we have done. And then while I pull that up, just for my own background, I've been in journalism since the 20th century, and my background has been in like features reporting, arts and entertainment, and it's kind of that kind of and then moved on to business and reporting. But I really got into data when I moved from the daily newsroom to Yahoo, where I was the Buzz Trends reporter, and I got to be able to see anonymized search data at a massive aggregate level. And that was, to me, just a mind-blowing experience. I've been now with Microsoft for some years and with the Microsoft News team for the last 2. And I'm sure some of you on the call are amongst our partners. We work with about 1,200 publishers that represent about 4,500 brands in, globally for 140 companies. Our data journalism program has been running now for about 3-4 years, and we've worked with many, many different types of partners, wire services like AP, who used it for elections. We've worked with local, regional newspapers as well, and also some non-traditional outlets, because data, PowerPoint is Power BI is actually built as a business intelligence dashboard, but we just realized, because of the easy way you can pull in visuals, how you can self-serve a lot of this, it had really huge value with data journalism. And some of the partners that have worked with it have really had huge aspirations. So for instance, Politico EU, they wanted to see what were the repercussions that a single citizen's vote could have across the continent. And so how could they engage citizens across borders? How could they tell this very complicated story? And, as someone from the US who already thinks that their election cycle is complicated, the election, people in Europe, you guys know, is just phenomenally complicated. And they were able to create like horseshoe visualizations, build up polling, but allow people to drill down on that country level, because yes, you want kind of that snapshot of what's happening, what's important, but how is it relevant to you? Recode has been another organization that has utilized the tool to build very, very different types of business reporting. The classic one is the milk grocery cart story, which you can just kind of drag in and see, how different online and brick and mortar retailers compare. But the thing about it's important to use these visualizations is that you can create a template that's actually reusable. So the milk grocery cart visualization, even though right now you see, big name brands of food and grocery items, imagine if it was like a fantasy football team that you were building. Like, is there a way that you as an individual can create something that you can flow in different data, but not have to rebuild the whole visualization over and over? And the other examples, if you can see my screen, is the kind of different appealing. It's got to be appealing to be able to interact. You want to sort of entice people, and you also have to train your people, your audiences, how to interact with this as well. But to invite them to something that's kind of aesthetically entrancing is actually quite helpful. And then another example that I wanted to show you is not a newsroom, but non-obvious company. What they did with the tool Power BI is create a table of contents. So it's clickable to be able to go to see hundreds of different trends. So that's another way in which you can think of data journalism in sort of a non-standard way. Imagine
this is Kathleen. We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, you're not seeing my screen. Well, guess what, guys? It's like everything I'm showing you is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to do it again. And then I'm sharing. Okay, wrong screen. Hang on. No, that's the wrong one. Yes, well, this is just some technical.
Those are also data visual. Those are Power BI visuals.
You know what? I'm just going to keep on this one. So let's just keep on this screen and just switch. And here, hopefully that you can, well, you know what? We'll just stay on this. Because right now my sharing is a little bit funky. So here I just wanted to show you the recode thing that I was talking about. Right, and then this was the non-obvious interaction, where it was the table of contents. And then one of the last things that I wanted to show you was a broadcast company, Seattle King 5, which is a local techno station, wanted to be able to tell all sorts of different, first of all, they wanted to experiment with different types of storytelling, and they needed something that would work on TV as well as that would translate well when people would follow up going online. And so they told stories about immunization rates and marijuana excise tax and even traffic, because there was something, a viaduct that was going to be shut down. And so these were all sort of more complicated stories that they needed to make sure it showed up well. So those are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. But before we start building, I do want to kick it over to Vera Okeyo so that she can actually just talk about her experience about, again, as she said, data has never been, like, she's never been the #1 fan of data, but it was still vital for her to claim it. All right, Vera.
All right. Okay, so here I am. My work was mostly on reporting on under 5 mortality since 1960. That's about the time Kenya got its independence. And we have had a change of government ever since, which has had an impact on our health governance. And most recently in 2010, when we changed from the centralized system to the devolved system. So I wanted to report on how much, whether there's been any change at all. And that's, this was part of the grant that I got from Microsoft and ISOJ, International Center for Journalists. And I did this story. So my interaction with this was kind of like very interesting. And in my presentation, the next thing I had my little toolkit. So I realized that apart from the Power BI itself, like running a data journalism project is much more than having the tool, the Power BI tool itself and having the data. It has other, should I call them peripheral skills that I needed to be able to do that. So the first thing was how to collect that data. Like I remember I had this, you know, internally what I was visualizing, and like I was at point A and the Z was these amazing things that I wanted to do. So when I was starting to collect the data, I remember my mentor at that time was from the Washington Post, and I was just swimming in data, and I'm like, oh my God, I've collected this, I've collected that, I still need much more than this. And Van Roberts, the person I was working with, Vera Chan's colleague, was always like, I could still visualize that, but I needed to have a direct line of the kind of storyline that you will need to work on. So eventually I settled on working with a PhD research student, the work that he had been doing for the last 6 years. So he had collected that data. And eventually I decided that, you know what, data can be numbers, but at the same time, the qualitative bit of it. And because I come from a social science background, like the skill of interviewing was very, very key for this one. So eventually I just settled for the data for, you know, just the mortalities, like each year, how many children had died, and then looking at the 47 counties, the 47 regional governments that we have in our country, and to see how that has changed. And here was the interesting bit. Initially, before working with Power BI, I had this, you know, preset things about how we should report about certain regions of our country, right? So the urban areas and the rural areas are expected. Of course, the rural areas are going to have a lot of deaths, and it's just going to be a ghastly, sad story of children dying because of the much money that we put in it. But when we work with Power BI, I started noticing that, you know what, there's a little bit of change. Like in some areas, there was actually, we had never seen that before. Like I had never seen that before. I'd never seen that in that way. So I was able to see that between a certain period of time, like between 1990 and say 2000, an area had experienced tremendous change, and this had never been reported, because when you're in the news cycle, you report on what has happened in 2013, then there's a new report in 2014, and there's a new report in 2015, and you're just like, oh my God, the people are dying, but not looking at what progress has been made. So Power BI was able to bring in that kind of creativity in terms of getting new storylines. Like the western part of the country has always been like, we call it the massacre of children. Like children have been dying in such a big, in numbers, but nobody had actually ever sat down and saw the progress. As much as the numbers are still high, the progress in Western Kenya and Nyanza, nobody had ever sat down to see that the progress, that they had reduced their mortality by up to 70%, despite the numbers being so high. And so Power BI kind of like helped me to see that the stories can change. The story can change on how you report on it, on how you tell those stories. And then to build up on that element is that most people, especially where I come from, where data journalism is just, taking its root. We are enthusiastic about it. Newsrooms in Kenya are enthusiastic about it, but it's still the basic, what percentage, but data never sometimes actually doesn't influence storylines that much. All right. So we got, excuse me, we got a lot of, a way of telling this story in such a way that I'd never imagined before. And just as I kind of like wind up, I began to realize that there were some elements in my newsroom that I wasn't exploiting, should I say, like people that I wasn't using before. Like whenever we're in the newsroom, it is always the reporter that is taking the credit, it's always the reporter that is being seen. And if you want to expand your digital journalism and the power of visualization and use of data, you ignore some people, you ignore um, you know, uh, uh, the graphic designers, to ignore the people who do the layout in the website. And because of my project, I was able to bring all of those people together to be able to do that kind of reporting. Like for once, it was not just the reporter. It was much more than just me going to the field and me coming back to the newsroom with the stories and laying it out. And I remember the first study where we did, I had to, sit down with the person laying out the page on the paper to kind of like match what I was seeing on online on our layout. And I think I have like 2 minutes. And one of the things that this project and the use of Power BI kind of like taught me is the leadership in it. Like this was a big project. It was many stories, working with different teams from many other parts of the country and our bureaus scattered all over. The Nation Media Group is kind of like a big newsroom. We are scattered all over East Africa. So being able to get stories to support the data that I was having for the 47 counties meant that I did not have to go to the field myself. So I had to kind of like rely on those people. And what that taught me is that I had to teach my teammates, like, this is how you do an interview. This is how you conduct your field work. It's important that you schedule your team this way. And out of that project, I am happy to announce that it's in its third week. Like I was able to be given a new responsibility in the newsroom to be the head of diversity, inclusion, and belonging in reporting. A thing that was kind of like influenced by the data that I saw when I was working with Power BI. Like I just realized, oh my God, we never report on these parts of the country, because I was seeing the data and like, we never do that. Like, why was this, when I was analyzing the data and working with Van Roberts, who is Vera Chan's colleague, I was like, okay, in the northern area of the country, we see in this 5-year time, there was this change. Let's go to the field and find out. And then when I go to the field, a place I'd never been to before, Kenya is quite diverse in terms of not just the location, the geography, but even the people itself, the socioeconomic stuff. So I was like, we have to put in a little bit of effort to report on these places, on these places that we completely used to ignore. Like the northern part of the country was always just oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that there. The northern part of the country was always just about there's hunger, there's all that. But now I saw we needed to have a more nuanced way of reporting about this place. So because of the data journalism, it emerged so many things that maybe I'll have a kit for my newsroom on how to do things, strategy, what long-term effect that project had on the newsroom, and then working with the team. You push them to a certain level. Like when they go to the field, I have to watch out. Are you okay? Are you well taken care of? In pursuit of this one data journalism project. Vera, I think that is what I gotta share up to now. I'll be open to questions later.
Okay, and I know a lot of you guys in the chat want to see a demo. Kathleen's going to show you a demo. It is true that Power BI is a Windows PC tool. There is a Power BI online. It's mostly for, after you've built your data journalism project, it's more robust. Then you can do online through Mac or PC, but the initial building is going to be, but Kathleen is going to tell you more.
All right, I know you guys are eager to see the tool, so I'm going to bring you through a visual I did. In upstate New York, we have a horse racing track, and there are way too many horse deaths here. And so the New York State runs this open data website and they keep these great databases, and they're updated daily. So this is when a horse dies, it goes into this data set right away. So I could download it as an Excel file, or I'm going to go a different route. I click export, and I'm using OData, which is basically like an API. It's a data connection. It's a URL, and every time that Power BI goes to that URL, it's going to pull down the most recent version of it. So now I'm going to hop over to Power BI. And here we are in Power BI. Let me take you through it a bit and get you oriented. I have it set up so I have a template here with my fonts, my headlines, my logo, so I can hit the ground running. It also has my colors built in, my color palette. And this is the canvas where you do the data visualization part of it. Over here on the far right side are their fields. This is where, when I add a data set, whether it's an Excel file or something else, the column headers will all show up over there. This visualization pane is all the default visuals that are available to me. And down here are the values that you put into them. So when we have some data here, I'll literally be dragging the fields over to these value buckets to start creating the visuals. But first, we need data. So I go to the Get Data tab right here. And this dialog box comes up, and this are all the different data connections that you can make. Obviously, Excel files, CSV files, those are the easy ones. Power BI actually does a great job of getting tables off of a PDF. And as reporters, the PDFs are like the bane of our existence. When someone responds to a data request with a PDF, you just shake your head. But it does a pretty good job. This list is very long of all the different ways you can pull in data to the tool. And we're going to use the OData feed. So click on that, click connect. It's going to ask me for the URL. I put it in there, hit OK. And now it's going to ask me if I just want to load it up and start working on it, or do I want to clean up the data a bit. So here's a little preview of it. And I'm going to say I need to clean this up. So I'm going to hit transform the data. All right, and this is the Power Query editor. This is kind of like under the hood or in the basement of the tool. This is where all your data work will be done. And it's a really powerful tool where you can clean up your data, you can filter it and make it smaller and cleaner and faster. It gives you a preview of about the first 1,000 columns, but any changes I make to the data in here are not going to change the underlying data set. It's just going to keep track of what you want to happen to the data. And I do want to do a little cleaning here because I want to show it to you a bit. So first over here, there's the year column. And the year column is being brought in as a number, and that's a problem. You don't want it to sum up to what's 2009 plus 2009. No, it's not really a number. In our case, it's a category. So we want to change it to text, and this is how I change the data types right here. I also, cleaning up your data is very important. If the people entering the data spell aqueduct racetrack wrong, it's going to show up differently. And here I can quickly take a look at the tracks that are here, And it looks like they did enter them pretty cleanly. Everyone spelled aqueduct right and Finger Lakes right, but some of them are really long. So I just want to slim down how long some of these are. Let's see. I want to, and I'll show you. This is going to look very similar to Word. I want to get rid of Naira out of there. I'm going to right click there and click replace values. And I want to get rid of Naira. So I'm going to replace it with nothing. I'm going to hit OK. And that's going to run through the entire data set and get rid of any time it says Naira. I also want to get rid of gaming and, because we're just focused on the racetrack side of it. So let's get rid of gaming and. And, oh, this one Monticello. I need to get rid of Mighty M Gaming. Okay. All right, that cleaned that up. That's just a quick view of how you can start cleaning your data. And one of the best parts of this, on the right-hand rail here, you're going to see a history of everything I've done. It's like a breadcrumb trail showing you every transformation you've done on your data, and that is so helpful when you've made a mistake and can go back and track it. Also, if you dip back into a project a month later and say, "What did I do to this data set?" It's right there and shows you. I'm going to keep this ID here, which is a unique ID. I'm actually going to use that as we build this. I'm going to change the name of this to equine deaths. This is the name of my data set. It comes in with this really generic query one. Now I'm going to hit close and apply, and we're going to go back to it's applying them right now. This yellow shows up while it's applying those query changes, it's called. And then we're going to start building. First, I want to build just a simple bar chart that shows how many horses died each year. So that's a pretty simple one. We just need the year and how many incidents there were. You know what I realized? I need to go back and transform. I forgot to filter that down. I just want equine deaths because this data set also includes injuries, like major injuries. So we want the incident. Where is the incident? Incident. We want equine death. Sorry. So I'm just filtering that down. All the other injuries are going to be filtered out of this. I'll hit close and apply again. I see someone raise their hand. Maybe someone can help offline while I keep going right here. All right, so now here we are. We see all the column headers showed up here in our fields. And so to build the column chart, I'm going to click on this clustered column chart. You're going to see an empty container show up here. And here are the fields that it's asking me to fill in to create this chart. So on the axis, I'm going to just literally drag over the year. And for the values, I want it to be the account of the number of incidents. So I'm going to use that unique ID and put it in the values. And there it shows up. Now, if you look at it, a little something strange is happening. Do you see how it's sorted? It's sorted from highest to lowest. And we want it to go in chronological order. So I'm going to click on these 3 ellipses dots and say sort by year. And then I'm going to say sort ascending. There we go. And now it shows you by year. Now let's style this a bit more and make it a little easier for the user to see. I'm going to go over to the styling tab. See this paintbrush here? This is where you access all the styles that are connected to this chart. And I'm going to turn data labels on. That's going to show the value of how many horses died each year right above the column. I like that. And I'm going to turn the background on. So it shows that a little background shows up behind the number, and I think that looks pretty sharp and it's pretty helpful to the end user. I'm also going to get rid of this little header that comes in automatically there. That is, it's helpful to know what data, it's telling you what data you're looking at there and what you brought in, but I don't think we need that. All right, now let's make it a little more interactive. I'd like my users to be able to decide what track they want to look at. So in Power BI and Excel speak, that's called a slicer. It's basically a filter, and it's going to be a user filter that they can use. So I go back over to my visualization pane. I need to make sure that nothing is selected on this side. So nothing's selected, and I'm gonna choose the slicer. There's that little filter right there, filter, and it shows up right over here. And I'm gonna drag the track in. So it's asking what field do you want in there? I want the track to be in there. So there we have all the tracks, they just showed up. And I can resize things pretty easily. I just click around and use these little handles on each of the container boxes to make sure it's the right size there. And one thing I really love about Power BI is that interaction is automatic. I don't have to tell Power BI I want these two charts to interact. It automatically assumes it. So if I click on Belmont, you're going to see down here the chart is going to change and show me Belmont. If I want to see Aqueduct, it'll show up right there. So I think I want this filter to have a select all so the user can go back. So I'm going to go over to the styling tab again, click on that, and under selection controls, I'll say show select all. I also want to give them a little advice on what to do. So I'm going to turn that header off, the automatic header off, and I'm going to put a title on. I'm going to say select a track. And I find my readers are not used to these interactives and they need a little advice and tips on what to do. So I try to use bright colors to tell them, come on over here. There's something you should do. You can play around with this. So let's increase the size of that and maybe make it a little more bold. There are quite a few formatting, styling options here. If you are an artistic type person, you can spend a lot of time fine-tuning this to perfection, and you'll find there's quite a few options on how to do it. So I'm going to make that big enough so it goes there. So there we go. We have a basic interactive right there. We can add a headline and a subhead. Can someone give me a little idea of how are we doing on time here?
We're good.
We're good?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to make a, maybe someone can suggest some headlines in the chat, and Vera, maybe you can tell me what a good headline is. And I'm going to work on dynamic text right here in the subhead. So dynamic text means if someone clicks on one of the tracks, something different will show up right here showing you something specific about that track. So we are going to use something called, I'm going to get rid of that text that I had there as a placeholder. And I'm going to use something called a data story. So I go over here to my visuals, and I'm going to use the Enlighten data story. And the data story allows you to pull in fields that you want to change. So we're going to use the track name, and we're going to use the count. Let's see. I'm going to put it in the order: the count and the track name. Where'd the count go? I'll try that again. Count, track name. And now I click over to the styling field. I think I need to change this to count. I see what I was on the wrong thing there. I'll go back to make that track again. I had selected the slicer by accident when I was starting to style it. That's what got me in trouble. Got it. All right, back to here. All right, so back on the dynamic text, I'm going to click over to the styling tab and let's write our story.
We have one suggestion for a headline. Don't
Okay.
bet on these horses.
Don't bet on these horses.
Yes.
I like it. Thank you. Oh boy. All right. So we're going to say that when this hashtag is telling Power BI where to put the first data point, and this the number of deaths. Actually, we need to be a count. The number of counts and the track. So this is our first data point, and that's our second data point, and the hashtag tells it where to insert it. So there were data point 1 deaths at, and this is the racetrack. And so you can see a preview of it right there. There were 760 deaths at Aqueduct Track. And we could change this, we could filter this to be just in 2019. And I think I'll do that. I'm going to drag the year over. Oop. To the filter, and I'm going to select just 2019. Oh, maybe there was no deaths at Aqueduct in 2019. Interesting. Year. Oh.
And while you're doing this, Kathleen, we have a comment from Brian McKinney. This is the true cost of professional horse racing.
Indeed, indeed. All right, so there we go. I've got that showing up, and back to my story. I'm going to add there were hashtag deaths at the track in 2019, and now I'm going to change I'm going to make the font sizes a little bit more similar to each other here. So I'm just styling it a bit, and so 16, and now I go to the data points, and this is the styling for the data points. Font color black. Font color, did I say 16? There we go. And now, so now when we click on another raceway, it'll change that automatically right there, and also down here on the chart. So that was 15 minutes, and so don't bet on these horses is our headline here. Written by a true journalist there. Make that a little smaller. And I'll get rid of this little title that's showing up over here. Where is that one? All right. There is a really simple interactive, but I think this would be something that your users, my users, would like to do, to look at their local racetrack and see how many horses have died over the past several years. And it can be powerful, and it's also engaging and keeps them in your story and on your website. And that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? So any questions?
Brian got more colorful with of what happens with these horses, but people can look in the chat if you want to see that.
Okay.
How do you change the color of the bars? And are all the data related to Santa Anita racetrack?
This is New York State, so this does not have Santa Anita racetrack. You can change the color bars over on the styling menu again. We can go to I have to make sure that is chosen. And there should be a data color tab. There it is. I can choose a basic color, this is my Times Union data colors. You can choose a custom color. You can also make it a formula, so you could base it on the number of of deaths at each track. So it's almost like a graduated color bar. So there's a lot of color options there.
So Kathleen, a million questions are coming in, but the lead ones are, let's say, how long did it take you to use this or master this? How can you export this? What are the advantages and disadvantages of Power BI versus Tableau? 1 minute, go.
Oh my God, that was a lot, Vera. It helped me tremendously that I had some strong Excel background when I came into this, because I found it very familiar, that especially on the data connection and data cleanup side, it had a very Excel feeling. So that helped tremendously. I was able to do some very simple interactives right from the get-go, but every month my skills have grown. But there was an initial learning curve. Not going to kid you there. There definitely is. I had used Tableau previously. I found this Power BI easier than Tableau, and I also found one of the main reasons I moved away from Tableau, which was my first love. It is a great tool. It's a wonderful tool, but it didn't look good on our website. The embeds look really bad, especially on mobile. So when I came over and tried Power BI, the embeds look good. So when it comes time to publish, you go up here, you click publish. It publishes it to the Power BI server, and from there it can create an embed code. And you can use that embed code by itself, or there's actually an optimization tool, and I will send you the URL for that. And that optimization tool makes it even more dynamic. So renders kind of well based on whatever screen you're on, and that's been very successful for me. Although you will notice my default visual is this portrait style. That works better on my web page, just because we have ads on the right and the left, and it just so happens it looks great on mobile phones that way too. So I don't have to create two different versions. So that makes it very quick for me. I will share that optimization in the chat.
Great. So I know that we're actually already nearing the end of our hour, and I do want to bring it back to Vera Okeyo, and we will share more links on how to learn more. We do have online tutorials. Yes, we have answers, people. We didn't just show up just to show you something and then just leave and not have something for you. So we definitely have things for you. We have tutorials. We have office hours. Kathleen is also available as a trainer. We've gone to places like NICAR. There's self-guided tutorials. Again, I'll share all that, but I want to hand it over to Vera Okeyo, because I think one thing that is important, that anything that you do that makes you the only person in the newsroom to do this, is that you end up being you have to lead, right? And you have to kind of make the newsroom buy in. We hear so many things about, like, yes, we want to have data journalism, but we don't have the resources. And Vera's going to track a little bit about what that process was like for her.
Oh yeah, sometimes resources, when you say resources, with all that's going on in the newsrooms in the world right now, people just think money. So at that, I realized from the very beginning, as someone who's been in the newsroom for 9 years, this is the only job I've done and I love it. So I realized from the very beginning that if you start on innovation from the point of, can I have more money? That's going to be a problem there. So you can, my strategy was, why don't I use what I already have in the very beginning, all right? Like the storytelling bit, my colleagues were interested in data, the interest thereabout. So what worked for me is, like, I was at a point where newsrooms in Africa, generally, and Kenya, my place, they were looking for a way of how they can diversify their content, because the newspaper is still king in this part of the world, but it's not enough. Like if you look at the studies, Reuters Institute of Journalism has produced that. We're also experiencing that decline. So I came to my superiors with a solution, like, this is going to give us some sort of a solution for diversifying content, for how to change how it is consumed, and that's how it worked. So when you demonstrate from the very beginning that these are free tools, like, we have the website, it's free. And then now it can be better by having something a little premium. Then once you've demonstrated how this has worked, it will be possible to make a business case for this other one. All right. So in that, how that turned around is like, eventually, I ended up having shorthand. Shorthand is another visualization tool which the company procured for me to be able to, show the kind of stuff that we have, because I wanted to, have a platform that can show the photos pretty well, that can show the visualizations pretty well. And that is how it worked. And then the next thing was also a buy-in within your colleagues, so that you don't just become the only person who knows how to work with this. Like, anybody who's interested, and I'm like, you got to learn this, because Power BI is not just for, visualization for journalism alone. It can work in other sectors of your life. So you're not going to be in the newsroom forever. So people came to try and learn about it because they want to, they want to be able to, know how to operate it. And the good thing is that, you can have premium Power BI, like there are some, you can pay for the premium version of it, but it is also available for free on the internet. So you can just use it before you start becoming all complex and techy. It's still available free of charge to be used on the internet. And if you have a laptop or a desktop and some internet, there you go. Like, you have it. And then just a lot of, like, I'll have to say I had, should I say 10% of the skill and 90% of strategy and tenacity and passion, because the buy-in was a lot. And then also the journalism, the fieldwork has to be strong so that you're able to visualize something that will accompany a good story that is text and interviews and what you do. So balancing that is something I had to learn to balance. That, like, it's not just the visualization, but it's the teamwork, the journalism itself, going to the field, and then now combining all that and making a case for, now let's institutionalize this. Let's not just have it like some little pocket of an assignment that we had. We can make this part of what we do and how we run our data and everything. I don't know whether that answers the question, Vera. Does that answer the question? Vera, you're mute.
Yes, all I do is work at a technology company. And yes, I think that does answer the question, but we've got another minute if you wanted to wrap up about some of your thinking. And I know that you're always open for collaboration as well. So.
Yeah, we had a lot. There have been a lot of collaborations with that, and I'm still welcoming that. I'm still welcoming a lot of collaboration. Vera, could you just take it to the, yes, Asante Sana is Kiswahili for thank you very much. So the new desk, the diversity desk, where we're telling all the stories, which was born out of working with Power BI and analyzing the data that comes with Power BI, is trying to explore journalism, journalism that is not the usual ABC kind of reporting, the kind that we are used to every single day. So without Power BI, I would never have realized that, like, the creativity in deciding where should you focus your attention would not have come through. So thankfully, because of that, now we have the diversity, inclusion, and belonging desk, where we're trying new methods of telling stories, focusing on subjects and people that we were not usually reporting about. After the experience that I realized there are parts of my country that I never just give attention to, and now I have it. So I welcome those kind of partnerships and all the I don't want to say prayers, like all the pointers that anybody could have. Nation is, after all, the media for Africa in Africa. So if you want to work on stories on this side, just come over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one thing I also wanted to mention before we wrap up is that sometimes you win awards for these kinds of things. And I know this is not always your goal. You're just trying to tell a story. But Kathleen, if you wanted to weigh in a little bit on that. And, you know, Kathleen has been winning these awards not just every year, but she's sort of swept by winning first and second place. Kathleen, did you want to say a little bit about this?
Well, I have won some statewide data visualization awards, and it's in the medium-sized newsroom category. So I'm not competing against New York Times or anything like that. But sometimes I am the only entry in the category, and I do credit my work, being able to work in Power BI, that I can do it quickly and I can do it with making beautiful visuals. And that is something that most mid-sized newsrooms are not able to pull off. So it's a credit to my company that they've given me this role where I can explore this and that they support it. And it's paid off with awards, which is always nice.
And so we have been sharing links in the chat. We'll share it one more time. Of course, this is being recorded as well. But one of the things that that you'll be seeing is keep in touch, right? We want to be able to help you. Our journalism training is free. Kathleen is also available as a trainer. She does happy hours, office hours. But you know what? We'll do happy hours too. You just let her know. But this form will also not only get you in touch with about our Power BI training, but we also do other types of training as well. So we're happy to talk to you about what your needs are. The other link that I shared is our actually Microsoft 365 for journalists, where we teach you things like how to use PowerPoint for video hacks, where you can lay audio tracks on a slide and things like that. But if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the sharpened data journalism skills. And so you'll have cool stuff like a poster anatomy of Power BI. You'll have lessons on, we use this when we teach newsrooms, but you guys can also follow along for yourselves and learn how to merge and join data, visualize and interact with your data and publish your report to the web. We also have off-the-shelf vizzes if you want to use it right now. Like you don't want to learn anything, fine. We've got voter turnout data. We've got COVID-19, and we've got election campaign finance. So if you guys want to download that and just use it, please feel free to do so. Because we all built this so that you can make it just a lot easier for yourself. And then we have a data journalism playbook. Again, when we partnered with King 5, they wanted to write about, they have actually gone to NICAR and talked about what it was like to a broadcast station doing data journalism. And so this was something that they, we kind of based that model on, okay, no thanks, on our playbook and what they said. And then another thing that to think about too is Microsoft Power BI community is like everyone, right? Business intelligence, academics, and journalists. We have a community group. So you guys can go and join the forum and just share your stuff and just talk to people, other data junkies, to get their advice. And what's kind of cool about this is there's a category just for news. Kathleen's stuff is also in here as well. So if you want to see what other people are doing, and by the way, the audience in this area is pretty large as well. So I just want to go ahead and wrap up and kick it over to Mallory.
Great. Thank you so much, Vera, and Kathleen. That was incredibly informative, and I love how practical it was. I think that journalists will really be able to take what they learned and apply it to their own work and their own newsrooms. And thank you as well to Microsoft again for making this workshop possible. So to everyone in attendance, we hope that you will join us later this afternoon. We have 2 other great panels. Our next one starts at 1 p.m. Central, and we'll be learning more about how to cover electoral campaigns in the digital age, with a focus on the US presidential election in 2020. And then at 4 p.m. Central, we'll have a great panel that will look at how to reinvent sustainable models to make local journalism thrive and survive in the digital age. And speaking of happy hours, we will in fact have a happy hour later today at 5:30 p.m. Central. And so if you've registered for that, we will be sharing more details with you soon. So I encourage you to visit isoj.org and look at our program, where you'll find more information about how to access all of these great events and also look at the speakers who will be speaking with us later on today. So thank you again for being here with us, and we look forward to seeing you back here very soon as ISOJ 2020 continues.